On the story around the application for NPA's Jiba as well as Mrwebi, we are now joined by political analyst via Skype, Professor Somadoda Fikeni. A very good morning to you, Professor. It's always good to have you here in studio. Firstly, let's just discuss specifically around some of the activities against the deadline. Will the two be making the deadline today?
Well, I do think that it will be prudent for them to put some response, even if the response may not be complete. They have to understand that in legal terms, the employer may easily dismiss them if they don't respond by the specified date.
And essentially, what do you make of President Cyril Ramaphosa's intention of an inquiry into their fitness to hold office, and then also some of the divisions that we've actually seen take place through some of the court proceedings that we've seen, specifically over the past month or so?
Well, I do think that the president is quite anxious to get rid of the employees who might be bringing reputational risk to institutions. We've seen that with Eskom, we're seeing that with the NPA, and we've seen that elsewhere with SARS, especially those high-risk institutions which may call into question any prosecution or any tax collection. The president might be quite anxious that even the investors may check and see if these ones are actually in good space. And he may put more pressure to resolve these issues in time for elections.
Professor, how essentially did we get here, specifically in the case of the NPA, with the president calling into question the fitness of them to hold office?
There was a time when it became clear that patronage system was bringing people for loyalty, not necessarily for their competence. And many laws in the process of appointments were broken, and the question of fitness of some of the members. And not only that, some questionable decisions by the NPA, going back to the time of, all the directors of NPA seem to have some pressure coming from the political end, from the time of Thabo Mbeki to the time of President Zuma. So this is quite a sensitive portfolio. The situation became worse in the last few years when the president himself was the subject of prosecution.
Definitely. Speaking of sensitivity, let's talk about the credibility at play and how this case in specific has affected the credibility of the NPA.
In fact, it has impacted on the credibility of the NPA, the perception that the heads of the NPA were close to the political processes and therefore not just serving without fear, favor, nor prejudice, which is the fundamental requirement for the NPA. And also other people who were being subjected to the process were beginning to complain that law is used against them for political reasons other than the legal reasons.
It is at this point, one would say, speculative, but what essentially would be expecting to be today's likely outcomes?
Well, I do think that there will be responses, but the president might still decide to suspend or even negotiate shifting them away from the NPA, because here the reputational damage is the main thing, irrespective of the technical arguments that may be presented.
When you say the president might be shifting them away, where essentially would one speculate that they would be moved to?
It's very difficult to tell. Look at Fraser, who was moved from our security intelligence establishment into correctional services, and we've seen before other people being moved across departments. So in the event these cases are not immediately resolved and yet NPA need to have a clean start, you may have them shifted elsewhere, even though processes to investigate their fitness for office may be taking place.
Why then would the president want to be shifting them if their credibility and their fitness to hold office is in question?
I do think that at times when they are still faced with a legal process which might say you have constructively dismissed someone and then they end up claiming millions, to avoid that, they might give them less sensitive portfolios where there'll be less exposure until such time that either their contracts run to an end or there is a determination out of the investigation that indeed they are fit or not fit to go back to their positions.
Thank you very much for your time this morning, Professor Somadoda. Fikeni, as it's D-Day, what has been described D-Day for Jiba as well as Lawrence Mrwebi to save their jobs, specifically in the MPA.